There have been just a few times, just a few, where I've possibly made the tiniest of mistakes in our relationship and created maybe a hint of frustration in my wife. And how have you navigated that? How have you had to process that?
You don't want to know.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Moving on
I'm just kidding.
to the next point. No. What are some, I know that you reached a frustration point with me, and I wasn't necessarily the husband that you wanted in that season. How did you walk through that? How did you navigate that?
Yeah, this was, gosh, we probably had 3 kids, maybe 2 and 1 on the way. I can't remember exactly, but man, I think first it's so important to who you go to. Obviously, we were talking, working, trying to work things out, but the Lord foremost. Like, he's the one that can deal with me where I am at my core, if that makes sense. So in that moment, though, I remember being I think I was in my closet. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in my closet, and I was just venting to God. Because, God can take us. He can take us who we are, as we are. He can take our anger. He can take our joy. He can take all the emotions. And in this time, I was done. I was mad. I was angry. I was hurt. And I was just venting to God. Like, he's yours. Like, why can't you fix him? Fix him for me, please. Please. I just remember the Lord saying, okay, like, write it down. Like, what do you want me to do? Write it down, because I'm a writer. I like lists, so write it all down. Wrote it all down, and he's like, is that it? Is that it? I go back through it. No. So I change it and add some stuff. And is that it? Is that it? Is that it? And finally it got to a point where it's like, yeah, this is it. And he said, okay. He said, I'm going to ask you something. He said, you can have everything on this list, or you can give it all to me, and I will create in him the husband, the spouse, the dad that you're going to need 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And in that moment, it was just like, oh, I suck big time. But it was such a freeing, it just taught me so much, even in my kids and even in my relationship with my parents and coworkers and friends. I don't want to make a list for them. I don't know who they need to be. He knows who they need to be. So,
yeah. Well, one of the things you've done and really led in, and one of the things that we tell people, even when we sit down and they're having marriage difficulties, because there's a natural tendency to treat the other person in reaction to how they currently are.
Sure.
So if I'm not the best,
if you're angry,
if I'm angry, it's easy for you to come back with anger. But one of the things you've done so well, and we've taught other people, is that there were seasons to where maybe I wasn't the husband you deserved, but you loved me as if I was the husband that I was going to be, or that I could be, instead of the husband that I was. And there was a grace and a mercy, and there was a seed sown into my life to say, you may be this, but I'm not going to treat you like you are. I'm going to treat you like you can be. Right. And I'm going to make that investment. And because of that seed sown, because of the conviction of the Holy Spirit, because of the ministry of God and the love and the faithfulness of my wife, I got to grow into the person that I was, or I could be, instead of being treated like the person that I was. And I think that's a beautiful picture, because the church is a picture of a family. And we have to love. And this isn't necessarily a marriage message. It's a message on the fact that the church has to be intentional about our relationships, because Jesus' prayer says, I want them to be one. I want them to be in unity. I want them to be together. And there's so much power, because here's something you need to understand. Before you can ever do what it is God's created you to do, you have to first become who God created you to be.